Hey everybody, on this episode of Conversations, I'm joined by World of Outlaws Late Model Series pit reporter and the voice of the Summer Nationals, Ruben Mireles. We talk all things World of Outlaws, including Brandon Sheppard's season to this point, Chris Madden's championship chances, and a bunch more. We also talk the new Summer Nationals schedule, whether Brian Shirley can repeat as champion, and who else might run the full tour. Ruben also walks us through the creation of the Stick Signals podcast and what's next for the show. Enjoy the episode. Ruben, we're just coming off this weekend at Mississippi Thunder Speedway. We got a Chris Madden win. We got Brandon Sheppard's first win. If we would have started the season and I would have told you that it would have been the first week of May before we would have seen a Brandon Sheppard official World of Outlaws win, would you have believed it?
I would have said yes and no, usually because he's very strong in speed weeks. But obviously, you got to take away he didn't go to Arizona this year. So, those are 6 races he didn't go to. So I want to say no, because remember last year he didn't get his first win till around this time. And then you look at 2019, then he won the Dirt Late Model Dream. So definitely not. One thing that the competition has to worry about with Sheppard is, remember, coming into this weekend, he was one of the 33 drivers, I believe, that didn't have a dry Dean heat race. And guess what? He was the only one that won both dry Dean heat races this past weekend, and managed to, with Madden still getting a victory, managed to still increase the point lead by 4 points. So I would say I'm kind of shocked, but at the same time, with the circumstances not going to Arizona, no.
As you've talked to him and that team this year, what are you kind of like? What are the impressions you get from them? Like, how are they feeling about how the season has gone?
Well, they're definitely obviously frustrated with everyone saying, "Oh, they haven't won, they haven't won," and obviously there's a lot of other drivers that haven't won either. But of course, they uphold a high standard, so they're definitely obviously with a chip at the shoulder. They always show up. They're always at the first of the pit gate. They're always they're testing and everything. So obviously they know they were struggling, but the mentality they had was definitely unstoppable. They knew they were going to get a win someday. They were working hard. The hard work never stopped with them.
When you talked about there about some other guys that haven't won yet. When you look around the field right now with the World of Outlaws Late Model Series, who are those names that surprise you as guys that haven't run better? And I know we've seen plenty of guys have bad luck, but as you look down the order, who's that guy or a couple of guys that you're a little surprised by so far?
Well, definitely has to be Ricky Weiss. Obviously, we talked about him being super consistent the past 2 years that he's been on tour. Was our rookie of the year 2 years ago, and Ricky, honestly, he has been, I mean, completely. I mean, he hasn't been up there at all, and I feel bad for Ricky Weiss. Obviously, the whole sniper thing. They're trying to move into their fourth shop in 5 years. Ricky is obviously struggling for help. They don't have Jason this year. Sean isn't at every event. Dana's going back home with that whole sniper deal. I don't know. I just feel like Ricky Weiss hasn't really been that well this year. Obviously, we expected him to do a lot better. Finished third in points. He was the highest rookie to ever finish in national points. Then got second last year. So we're kind of like saying, hey, he finished third. He finished second. Is this year he gets the championship? And well, this year hasn't really been that good for Ricky. Dennis Erb Jr. Obviously got the win at Erie's last year, got that Clarksville Summer Nationals win with us last year. And this year, obviously would have had that Volusia Speedway Park win last year, but the whole scales didn't go to scales. So after seeing him at Volusia, it was a whole new resurface. Everyone was fighting for grit, but Dennis Erb Jr. has been on the struggle bus. I would say those guys, and obviously Cade Dillard. I mean, I had a lot of hopes for him going into Boone and going into Mississippi Thunder Speedway. He got good finishes, but man, you got to feel for him. He's been doing good. Obviously, two good second places, and obviously got win at Boone. There's just a lot of drivers that I thought would do a little better. Like Ricky Weiss, or I expected Cade to have more than one win at this time, but I mean, nonetheless, they're still doing good. But yeah, those are some of the guys that I would think.
One of the things that kind of surprises me at this point in the year, and obviously, Bobby Pierce is a guy that you see a lot as the voice of the Summer Nationals when that part of the schedule rolls around, but gets his first two outlaw wins, and he's actually leading the series right now in laps led, and he hasn't even run that many races. What are your impressions so far of what Bobby's been able to do this season, kind of out with the national tours?
So the past 2 years, he's been back in those Pierce Platinum cars. Remember, the year before that, he was running Rockets. When he came back out, he went to Dunn Benson, then ran the Rockets, and then when he went back to his Pierce Platinum, Bobby wasn't that fast. But obviously, it takes time in this sport. It takes time when you stop running your own stuff. It takes time to get back up to speed. So when Bobby finally has 2 years under the belt with those Pierce Platinums, he started to figure out how to qualify well. And the thing about Bobby, he's better at those longer distance races. He's just smarter. He could set himself in better positions in a longer distance race than a 30 or 40 lapper. So I'm not surprised about that. I think Bobby's going to be a tough guy coming up here in the next couple of years if he keeps everything going. If you think about it, Summer Nationals, all he has to do is just qualify well, just like these outlaw events. He'll start up front. If he starts up front, he could do very well. I mean, he's a three-time champion for a reason. I think this is the year that he will dust off the cobwebs on the Summer Nationals and come back. And you look at the rest of the year for him. I mean, those crown jewels that he's won in the past, I think he could win them again this year. I think Pierce is one of the hottest drivers in the country right now, and I think it keep this momentum going for the rest of the year and even into next year.
I did a daily show last week talking about Chris Madden and kind of his championship chances this year, and it feels like with the way kind of Sheppard and those guys have run up to this point that this kind of might be the best opportunity that Madden has had in his career to win the championship. What do you think of his championship chances?
Well, right now the separation is 60 points, but that's with Madden not starting two features. Remember back at Volusia, if he would have, I mean, I wish he would have signed the paperwork then, he would have been in the show. So we really hope it don't come down to the end, where it's 50, 40 points, because it's going to come down to those two features that he didn't make. But remember, when he signed on tour at Smoky Mountain, he was 12th in points, and now he finds himself in second, 60 behind. I mean, this crew is a young crew. They only have this year and the last two outlaw races of last year, which was the last call and that Mike Duvall Memorial at Cherokee and the 411. Him, Ricky, and Steve have done a phenomenal job. This team is a young team. They are hard workers. I saw them this past weekend at Mississippi Thunder. I sat down and got to know them a little bit more, and I honestly. I feel like this is a Chris Madden year. There's just something in the air. He won the Dryden Extreme Dirt Car Series championship. There's a lot of fight in Madden. The thing about Madden, he's a long way from home. I mean, all the way from that red clay South Carolina style racing and region. He needs to win races out of his region. He did good at Farmer City. He did good this past weekend getting that big win. He needed that big win. They tested at Davenport. They tested at Mississippi Thunder. I think this is a team to be recking with. I mean, Sheppard, the thing about Sheppard, though, he's just so consistent. Madden has the most Dryden heat race victories. He has 6. Sheppard only has 2, and those come this past weekend. So I think if Madden continues to be doing what he's doing and start running up front, this confidence is going to help now that he beat the one team. I think Madden has a very good shot of winning this championship. If I'm being honest, I think Madden is my pick for the year.
When you look back over the races we've had up to this point, what's a race that stands out to you in terms of maybe championship impact or something that was just a really great race?
Well, for Sheppard, I mean, honestly, Cherokee really stood out to me, although it did not count the prelim night. To Sheppard to seal the victory, how I said you have to win races outside your region. Sheppard has never been strong in that red clay. If Sheppard could, he passed McDowell on the outside groove at Cherokee. That new track configuration. Going back to Cherokee, we still have 2 races there. We got to finish this one, and then obviously the Mike Duvall Memorial. I think if Sheppard figures it out, he definitely seals a championship. But I don't know. I mean, the one that stood out obviously that night. There's just so many good races that stood out. Obviously, Farmer City. Brandon looked forward to going back home, especially after not racing there last year due to all the restrictions. He still managed to save it. So I mean, I don't know. I those really stand out to me because it just goes to show anyone could win an outlaw night. We saw 2 first-time winners. We're in for a curveball every single night.
When you look forward now, and I know some of these you're going to get to go to because of obviously your commitments with the other series, and some of them you're not going to. But what are some races here coming up that are ones that you're kind of looking forward to, the ones that you have circled on the calendar?
Well, definitely Port Royal, just because of the half mile. This has really come down to good qualifying. You look forward to that northern swing. Obviously, definitely PDC and USA Nationals. Those are coming up. Those are going to be big as well. Just kind of the bigger events, just because it's not just the Outlaws there. Bigger names come. When other series are off, you get guys like T Mac. You guys get like JD and Pierce and all these guys. So definitely when other drivers come, that's when it really matters because that's when the competition is real. Some guys aren't points racing and they're going to send it. When you really can't. It's going to come down to your qualifying and getting in that redraw. So really those bigger crown jewel events are the ones that I have my eyes on.
As the voice of the Summer Nationals, it's definitely something I want to ask you about. Is we've seen obviously last year with COVID, they kind of come out with this kind of reworked schedule. It's very different than what we've seen from the Summer Nationals in the past. And I think some folks, including myself, thought that we would kind of get back to a more normal Summer National schedule this season, and that didn't happen. They kind of kept what they had from last year. What have you heard about kind of like what people think of that? Like, is this a good move? Is this something that the competitors are excited about? Are you excited about this? Like, where do you kind of see this how do you see this playing out with this kind of reworked schedule?
I talked to a couple drivers this weekend at Mississippi Thunder, and a lot of drivers ain't thrilled about it. But at the same time, once they let all their official thoughts out after the conversation, at the end of the conversation, the best quote I got was, "Well, I think Sam Driggers is gonna lean back, smoke a cigarette, and laugh at us. 'Cause it's gonna be a success." Because if you think about it, it may be one of the most successful summer nationals. Yes, we are used to the 28 races in 32, 33 days, but this year it's 68 days. I don't know. Honestly, I feel like this year may be one of the most successful. I'm going to be honest. The schedule's a little too long, but it does give drivers an opportunity to regroup and reorganize. Like for example, we have Tanner English and Ashton Winger that want to run the whole thing. Yeah, Bobby Pearson wants to run the whole thing. I know Frank Heckeness Jr. wants to go back at it. Surely that's five good drivers already, and that's not including Fager and a couple other guys that want to do it. This may be one of the strongest years of summer nationals. We don't know what Bab's doing, but if he decides to go on, I know Billy Moyer said he's only going to do a few. So I mean, I don't know. I just feel like this may be one of the best years for summer nationals. Obviously, we're going to 4 new racetracks, so that makes it more interesting. It's more spread out. It gives drivers time to regroup and reorganize, and I think it's going to be good till the end, in my opinion. Now that I think about it.
When you like kind of start looking at like maybe a championship prediction, we've seen Shirley win it a couple of years in a row. Before that, it was Pierce a couple in a row. Is Shirley just kind of the favorite because of what he's done here the last couple of years, or is it somebody like Pierce?
I mean, obviously, Shirley's the hottest driver in the Midwest right now when it comes to the Dirt Car Summer Nationals. He's been absolutely unstoppable. It's kind of like the modified side. Who's stopping Nick Hoffman? Nick Hoffman's doing them all. He's just hot. But I mean, the way the cards are playing out this year, you gotta look at it. Frank Heckeness Jr. Like this past weekend, Shirley stayed in Illinois to go race in Illinois. Frank Heckeness Jr., Gordy Gundaker, Bobby Pierce, those guys went to Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Gordy Gundaker told me the best way. I want to get my butt kicked so I could learn. Or it was Frank Heckeness Jr. that told me that. Like these guys are venturing out of their comfort zone. Like Frank Heckeness and Gordy could have easily gone to LaSalle this past weekend, but they didn't. They went out with the Outlaws to do better and be better. And Pierce is the same way. So, honestly, I feel like does Shirley get 4 in a row this year? I want to say his chances are very high, but I want to say I think someone will knock him off this year.
Do you think in terms of the guys that you'll have compete that, the fact that there's more money on the line and the fact that you can miss a couple of shows, you think that's going to draw more guys in?
Yeah, how I said, I think it is going to be able to draw more guys in just because, our sport, it's so hard to find a good team. Everyone, whoever goes on the road still has to support their family. They have a 9 to 5 job and they're hardworking people. So it's kind of hard to find crew to go on the road. So with those 5 nights, I definitely feel like that's going to help a lot of guys. How I said, there's more time to regroup and reorganize. The only problem I can see with that is instead of taking 5 weeks off of work, now you got to take 9 weeks off of work. So it's kind of tough to do that. But at the same time, 2 of those weeks are crown jewels. So will the guys sacrifice going to PDC? Will the guys sacrifice going to USA Nationals? I feel like for a Tanner English, that's going to be hard because he's from Kentucky. But if you look like a Brian Shirley or a Frank Heckeness, those guys are from Illinois, so it'd kind of be easier for them. I just feel like it's harder for a guy like Tanner English from Kentucky. You know what I mean? If they want to go to those crown jewels, but if they don't, I find it's a little easier for them. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting how it plays out. There's pros and cons to it, but at the end of the day, I guess we got to experience it. Last year was just because of COVID. Nobody knew what was going to happen. We got so lucky to get last year in it. It kind of seemed like the tracks that we were at were loose on the restrictions, and then by the end of the tour, those tracks that we were at got tight with restrictions, and it just kind of played out to our favor last year. But now this year, with a more organized, we have room to breathe. I think it's going to work out pretty fine.
What do you think about like, some of the guys that we get to see come in otherwise? And some guys that stand out to me are Tyler Erb and Brandon Sheppard. And obviously Erb is still dealing with some of his issues, but like Sheppard comes in last year in his family car in the B5 and takes some of those wins. Should we expect some of those other guys to kind of come in and out too?
Yeah, definitely. Like Shepard's going to drive the house car this weekend. Anytime Brandon gets the opportunity to drive the B5, he's going to get in the B5 and come. Obviously, that was a fun week where he won 3 and then Shirley won 3. And then you talk about Turbo joining us. I don't know if he'll be able to compete with us this year. But yeah, you look at guys like that and you look at like guys like Ryan Gustin. I know he's focused on the World of Outlaw Rookie of the Year, but you look at that last week last year, he came up there and won that final points week. So it's cool when you have guys like that, and especially the different regions. You go look at the Missouri weekend, you hope like a guy like Jesse Stovall or Terry Phillips comes and joins us for the week. And when you go to Michigan, you have those guys like Dona Marcoolier and all those guys that you hope would run with us, Travis Thurlby. So yeah, it's always fun to see those guys run with us. I hope a couple guys stop in. I know Devin Moran mentioned to me that he may do the first week. So guys like that definitely spice things up. It's going to be worth fans' ticket.
How does your schedule kind of work out through that? Kind of with your Dirt Vision commitments and doing the Summer Nationals. Are you like once that starts, are you just kind of exclusively Summer Nationals?
Yeah, so my priority is DIRTRACKR Summer Nationals. That's my baby. That's my gem. And then World of Outlaws. So definitely, it's a bummer that I get to miss that. I'm gonna have to miss 12 World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series events. But at the end of the day, my passion is definitely in the booth. I will say pit reporting is probably the toughest, biggest challenge I've ever done, and being in the booth for me is where it's at. So I'm definitely happy that I'll be on the Dirt Car Summer Nationals announcing in the booth. But at the same time, I'm bummed out that I'm gonna miss that northern swing. I definitely wanted to go to Jackson. I definitely wanted to go to the Dakotas. I really wanted to go back to Thunder Mountain and go see obviously the Firecracker and all that with the Outlaws. But it's all right. I'll get to watch the replay on Dirt Vision. But it's all good. I missed 12 Outlaw events, but at the end of the day, I'm with the Dirt Car Summer Nationals, and it don't get better.
Walk me through kind of like where Dirt Vision is right now. And obviously, like I worked at World Racing Group from 2013 to 2020, and Dirt Vision has come a long ways. But even I feel like in the last year or two, we've seen big improvements. We've got pit reporters like you out there now. We've got, the big screen trucks. Like, for the people that maybe don't see some of that stuff that's happening behind the scenes, like walk me through some of those changes that you've seen here in the last year or so that, have kind of come to Dirt Vision.
There's a lot of behind the scenes action that a lot of people don't see. Honestly, Brian Dunlap has done a phenomenal job. He obviously Jim Chappelli now with Dirt Vision, he has done nothing but great things. He's really trying to turn this whole broadcast around, make it more of a national broadcast. They've done a lot of improvements. I mean, if as long as the fans keep supporting it, they're gonna give things back to the fans. Obviously, like for the fans that watch on Dirt Vision and then go to a real race, they want to give them similar of the same experience that with a big screen. That's a big thing there. The big screen is awesome. Obviously, they have a whole pre-race thing, so fans don't just sit in the stands and await hot laps. They actually get to watch old replays. There's trivia questions, commercials, and stuff like that. So it's not just good for the fans, but it's also good for our marketing partners. You got to take care of the people that take care of you. So that's awesome. Honestly, Dirt Vision, for the price that you're paying for the fast pass and the yearly pass, you get so much content. You get the vault, plus you get Attica and all the Australian venues. You get I mean, just so much on there. It's unreal. And they've added new people. The equipment that they take every single weekend to the racetrack, like the sprint car series has the truck and the trailer, and we have our van and all that stuff. Like they do a lot of work to that, a lot of improvements to make sure everything goes smooth, everything goes good. And Dirt Vision has just been absolutely stepping up their game. And there's been a lot of positive comments on social media. I saw it was back at Volusia. A fan asked, "Should I get Dirt Vision or this other company?" And man, so many good comments on Dirt Vision. It was very heartwarming to see. So Dirt Vision has really stepped up their game, and it's only going to go. It's only going to get better from here. Honestly, they have a lot of great plans in the near future.
Tell me about working with Rick Eshelman.
Oh, I love Rick. I met him back in 2014, and I got to thank him. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Working with Rick is just fun. It's never a dull moment with him. You're always gonna laugh. He's always always has dog treats in his pocket, ready to feed a woofie. He always has funny jokes to tell you. And the thing about Rick, he's a good mentor. Obviously, he's been in this game for a long time. I mean, a long time. And Rick will just be straight up with me. He's like, "Hey, you messed up on that. You sucked on that. Let's fix that. Let's do this. Let's do that." So he'll definitely give me different approaches on certain things. He'll tell me, "How about we do it this way? How about we do it that way?" So definitely, Rick is definitely always a fun guy to work with. He really took me under his wing, and even on a bad night, he makes me feel good, and vice versa. He's always told me he's learned things from me, but he's never going to tell me until he retires. And I'm kind of curious, but it's all good. I've learned a lot from him, and man, I just it's a lot of big shoes to fill when it comes to replacing his spot one day, hopefully.
When we kind of look at like one of the other things that fans don't see a lot of is the officials for the World of Outlaws late model series and the late model series. I've always loved that group. I mean, right now with Casey Schumann and Eric Grigsby and Kenny and it's like it's always and Bach. I mean, I can't leave out Tyler Bachman, right? But like it's such a great group. But what's it like going up and down the road with those guys week in and week out?
Yeah, time just absolutely flies. Literally, from the time that they picked me up to the time they dropped me off, it was a blink of an eye. Just because it was so much fun. Like this past weekend, I laughed so hard that it hurt to laugh. It was unreal. I mean, Tyler's just a character in himself. He has such a good fun personality. He has a very good sense of humor. Everyone has a sense of humor. The thing about it is, anyone listening to this that wants to work in dirt track racing, you better have a sense of humor.
For sure.
Yeah, you just have to. And Eric, obviously, he's a super smart guy. Like these guys are super smart, but when it comes down to getting business, they flip the switch. But when it's time to have fun, they have a lot of fun. Eric's just a lot of. He's my roommate. Um, Kenny, I mean, yeah, he's just a hard worker. He's good at what he does. You look at Casey. Casey's just a great addition. Obviously, from the sprint car world, he adapted really well to the late model world. And yeah, all these guys, and obviously Mike Warren, our new PR guy, he's funny and fun to talk to. John Sims, yeah, it's just a fun group to go out and just have dinner or have a couple drinks or do something. It's just a fun crew to be around with. Never a dull moment. Never.
One of the things that I always wanted to try to get accomplished when I worked at World Racing Group was starting a late model podcast. And, we did great work with Open Red, I thought. And even today, it's great to see that continue, even though me and Ross are gone at this point. But the late model thing, like we were close a couple of times and just could never seem to get it off the ground. And then you and Mick come along and you start Stick Signals. Tell me about the process of getting that show going and why you, why Mick, and how has it gone so far?
So it was funny. I wanted to start a podcast a long time ago with my local track, but I just kind of never. I don't know. Like I just don't know like the whole technical side behind it. You know, the whole editing and all that stuff. And I really wish I knew how. I never did. So it was Christmas Eve. It was either Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and I texted Mick. I was like, Mick, I really want to start my own podcast. Like, why can't we just do a podcast for like the late model series? Like the sprint cars have one, and sprint, like, I'm gonna be honest, the sprint cars get so much attention. Like,
Mhm.
I wish the late models would get more attention because like late models are amazing. And I told Mick, we really need to start a late model podcast. Like, what do we got to do it? He's like, well, mention it to Christina. And I mentioned it to Christina, and Christina said that'd be a great idea. So thankfully, she gave me the green light, and I got with Mick. And the good thing about Mick, he is absolutely like great with editing audio and piecing it all together. So thankfully to Mick, he's all like, well, yeah, let's do it. So we really didn't have a co-host, so Mick's like, I'll just co-host it with you. I was like, okay, cool. And then Mike Warren came on board, and Mike started being part of our podcast. So it's really cool to have three guys talking about dirt late model racing. So and honestly, I just wanted it more for the fans, just because like the World of Outlaws don't have a podcast. Like, well, the late models, we needed one. And
Mhm.
I've had so many fans come up to me and be like, man, thank you guys for doing that. Like, it's so much fun. We love Stick Signals and stuff like that. So it's just, in my opinion, as a race fan, like, honestly, I am a race fan. I'm just a lucky race fan with a microphone. And honestly, I would want to know, what Brandon Sheppard thinks, what he does for hobbies. I would want to know, what these guys like to do. So I think it's cool to get those interviews, get those stories and those inside stories, and bring it to the fans for free. You know what I mean? I think the fans deserve something like that, and when it creates more engagement. The thing is, we need to create engagement in our sport, because once we lose that engagement, we're going to lose our fans. So I think creating that engagement is awesome, and I just wanted to do it for the fans. It's pretty cool deal, and I thank Christina and Mick for letting me do that. And we've just got the torch and ran with it.
For those that haven't maybe checked out your show, well, what do you guys do? Who have you had on? Kind of give me the rundown of the shows you guys have done.
Yeah, so actually today we just finished recording episode 13 of Stick Signals. We've had a lot of great drivers. Head on there. You can listen on any podcast platform. I have Spotify. You can go on there, Apple Music, anywhere you want. So our first episode was released on February 16th this year. We had Bobby Pierce. We had it's the official podcast of the World of Outlaws Morton Buildings Late Model Series and Dirt Car Racing. So we talked to some of the dirt car drivers too. So episode 2, we talked to Mike McKinney and Steve Arpin. We've talked to Ross Bales, Chris Madden, Kyle Strickler, Chase Younghands. We'll talk to a promoter here and there. We've talked to Shepherd. We talked to Rick Eshelman, by the way. That was a good one.
Mhm.
Tyler Bachman, Ryan Gustin, Tyler Bruning. And this weekend, we didn't get anybody for episode 13. We kind of just talked about news and notes, me, Mike, and Mick. But definitely, we have a lot. We want to talk to older promoters. We want to talk about legends in the sport. Like we plan on getting Barry Wright on there. We plan on getting more outlaw drivers on there. And obviously, as the Dirt Car Summer Nationals comes closer, we want to talk to more modified guys and stuff like that. And then once we get all these guys done, obviously we got to keep it going. So I plan to start spotlighting some of these guys that have 9 to 5 jobs, like a Miles Moose, or like a like a just those Midwest late model guys, or a guy like uh oh my, I forgot his name, but those guys that work hard and are in the sport that deserve a spotlight that fans want to hear from. So yeah, I definitely want to do that and keep going with this podcast. We have big plans in the future to keep it going.
Well, one of my favorite things about doing Open Red was kind of like the response from like the drivers and the people that were like in the community. Like, and I'm curious, have you had crew guys, have you had drivers kind of approach you and ask you things that about, that have happened on the show or make comments about things that have happened on the show?
I've had a couple drivers tell me like, "Hey, that's pretty cool that you're doing that." Like a couple, like I know Strickler and Bruning listen to it every single episode, so it's pretty cool. It's funny when I asked Strickler at Smoky Mountain to be on the show. I was like, "Hey, Kyle, would you mind being on Stick Signals?" He's like, "Ah, man, finally, I'm glad. Like I've been waiting for you to ask me." So it was cool. So yeah, definitely a lot of like Ryan Gustin's crew guy came up to me. He's like, "We should do like a show where it's like not just the driver, but like the driver and the crew." So we definitely have plans of doing that. Just because we had Ryan Gustin on already once doesn't mean we're gonna have him on again. You know what I mean? We'll do different episodes, maybe next time with his crew. So yeah, we definitely have plans of doing different things like that just to spice things up and change it up. That way our audience doesn't get bored and we keep everyone engaged.
I love it. Well, I appreciate the time today. For those that don't know who you are, like, give me a quick, like, maybe couple of minutes about, coming from, El Paso Speedway, to where you are now. Like, how do you make this jump from where you are to now being, nationally with the World of Outlaws Late Model Series and DIRTRACKR Summer Nationals?
Honestly, just a lot of blessings and a lot of people that have taken me under their wing. I obviously started at the age of 12 years old, announcing at Southern New Mexico Speedway and El Paso Speedway Park. I'm from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Um, a lot of you have heard of this, of the town, of the city. It's the home of Johnny Scott and Stormy Scott and Garrett Albertson. So they're all my neighbors. That's where I come from. I announced here for 8 years, and then Royal Jones, who is Messia Valley Transportation, who's on Pierce's car, Moyer's car, Craig Kinzer's car, he was on Steve Kinzer for years. That's my boss. That's who got me started. And thankfully to him, one year I would always do shows in Arizona, West Texas, and Colorado. Well, I would do that Winter Extreme, which is now the Wild West Shootout, and that's where I met Rick Eshelman one year when he did the NDRL Kings of Dirt. And Rick, he had heard a lot about me, and he finally met me, and I was 14 at the time, and he's like, "Damn, for 14 years old, you're pretty damn good." So he was driving down Interstate 10 one time and stopped by and told me, he's like, "Hey, let's go grab lunch." So I took him to this mom and pop place, and he gave me the opportunity to do the DIRTRACKR Summer Nationals. And I always looked up to the DIRTRACKR Summer Nationals. My high school job was to work at a late model shop, siping and grooving tires, so I knew what the work took to do in a late model, and that's how I got my passion. So doing the Summer Nationals kind of just got me, with Dirt Vision stepping up their game, getting pit reporters. Thankfully, they picked me to be the pit reporter for the Outlaws, and that's really where I am now. And I just, thank everyone for being very, positive and welcoming to their tracks and all that stuff. It's been a dream come true to come through all these states and all these tracks. It's been fun, and I hope all the fans are enjoying it.
Well, I love it. Ruben, thanks for the time today, dude.
No, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.